but he left the band when I joined as singer. So I'd heard about Malcolm, and but then Velvet Underground broke up, and that's why I answered the ad in the paper. And when the voice on the other end of the phone asked who it was, I said Dave Evans, and he went, "Oh, it's Malcolm Young." He'd heard about me, of course, from the boys in Velvet Underground, and he said, "Look, I've got a couple of guys here. I'm forming a rock band. Come over and we'll have a jam." So that's what happened. I went over to Newtown in Sydney, and I met the other two boys. One was Colin Burgess on drums. He'd been a big star with the Masters Apprentices in the 60s. And also Larry Van Creet. I didn't really know him. We jammed, and it was great. We all shook hands, and we had a band.
A week later, Malcolm introduced a fifth and final member to the band.
After we'd formed the band, Malcolm asked if Angus could audition for us. So Angus then auditioned for us. We still didn't have a name yet, by the way, the band. He auditioned for us, and of course there was no problem. You know, he was a good player, same with Malcolm, and it was really a formality, really. Then there was 5 of us in the band.
The band began rehearsing regularly, and it was apparent to all that the group had potential.
Well, the dynamic of the band, right from the very word go, was very exciting. Even in the rehearsal room, a lot of energy. It just clicked straight away. And Malcolm got George Young to come and have a listen to us. It was exciting again for me. George Young from Easy Beats. That was, fantastic to meet George Young. George thought the band was great. It was just energy and power.
On December the 31st, 1973, AC/DC played their debut gig at the Checkers Club in Sydney.
At the time, Checkers was the top nightclub in Sydney. And we got the very first gig there on New Year's Eve, I guess because of the personnel in the band. Colin Burgess, of course, and the 2 young brothers, brothers of George Young from Easy Beats. There was obviously great expectations that the band was going to be great, and we were. We just went on and just did what we did. It was fantastic, just blew them away. It was a fantastic beginning.
We were just running off songs like stuff from the Beatles and maybe Stones and a couple of others. It's a long time ago. But it was mainly covers. We might have did a couple of original songs in there. It's a long time ago.
It's really part of Australian rock anyway. You've got to go out there from the very word go and just hit them between the eyes of the crowd. You've got to really hit them, but you've got to maintain that all through the set. In fact, towards the end of the set, you've actually got to crank it up. It's sort of like a blitzkrieg, if you know what I mean. And that is part and parcel of what Australian rock's all about.
Actually, it went pretty well, considering, because playing covers and things like that, because that's what the crowd know. If the crowd doesn't know any of your songs, you might as well be playing to nobody, because they've never heard the songs before. So if you've got people that are there for New Year's Eve, they've got to know the songs that you're playing. If they can't know the songs you're playing, why do it? So it's to get them up dancing. It takes a while to get a band established, because you've got to keep on going until you do. So it made us establish itself. So through Checkers, which was quite good. So that was that.
The band was given a residency at Checkers and also began to play all across Sydney. They soon gained a reputation as one of the best rock and roll acts in the area.
With Australian bands, we're so far away from the rest of the world. And the main influences, of course, were English bands or British bands and American bands. And I guess Australians just realised we've got to try harder because we had all the top acts from the world coming out to Australia, impressing the Australian public. And being local boys, we knew we were just as good or better than these guys, but we had to go out and prove it. So the crowds were very sceptical. They'd seen all the great stars coming out here playing at Festival Hall, and so our attitude as Australian rockers was to get out there and absolutely blow them away.
AC/DC are a live band, always have been, always will be. That's what their forte was, that's what their forte is. They go out there and however good the records are, they sell themselves on stage. And they knew from the start, if we're going to make it in Australia, we have to be seen on stage because that's where we can make things work.
Well, the set when we first started was mostly Chuck Berry, 12-bar type rock and roll, some Rolling Stones, Free, but also there was a couple of original numbers that Malcolm had written, and also we used to jam. Sometimes if we didn't have enough numbers, Malcolm would just say, right, we're doing this in E or A or G or whatever. I could sing any keys, it didn't matter. Just follow me. And he'd just start a riff, any riff, and the band would follow in and I'd just make up the lyrics and the song on the spot. And a couple of those we did keep, although they were never recorded. So yeah, from like Rolling Stones, Free, as I said before, Chuck Berry, and one or two Malcolm songs, and making songs up on the spot. That's how we started.
By this time, George Young and Harry Vander were working for Albert Productions, a newly formed record company. In June 1974, they decided to take AC/DC into EMI Studios to record and produce the band's first single.
Recording Can I Sit Next to You Girl was a very exciting moment for me. I remember getting the bus from Bondi into the city. We were all broke, of course, in those days, just getting the bus in there to EMI Studios, because that's where it was recorded. I was sitting on the bus with people around me. I just wanted to tell everybody that I was going to record a single, but obviously you can't. I was so excited. It was the first time I'd ever been in a studio too. So I really didn't say much. Harry Vander and George Young were there with the boys and Colin and that kind of stuff, and my eyes were quite wide, and I was very, very excited. It was all new, all foreign to me, and I virtually just did what I was told.
The first record was completed. With Can I Sit Next to You Girl, the band believed they had a hit on their hands.
I thought that it's got great potential, especially after starting to get into the original stuff. I thought, great, because I've been in a band that had played original stuff and had quite a few hits, lots of hits, and I thought, here we go again, it's on another roll. So yeah, I knew they were going to be big, and they were.
The first single, Can I Sit Next to You, was very early AC/DC. It was very much finding their feet. You can hear the genesis and the germ of the sound we know and love today, and would make them into megastars, but it's very much in the early days. And I think Harry Vander and George Young being there as producers, co-producers, helped and hindered. Helped in the way that because they knew their way around the studio, they could bring out certain things and make certain suggestions. I think it hindered because AC/DC was still a little confused as to where they were going musically. And what Vander and Young did almost is accentuate the confusion. So while they were expert and prolific in the studio, what they didn't seem to actually appreciate right then was letting AC/DC be themselves. So they were adding to the confusion by adding in ideas. So you end up with a good song, but doesn't really have much impact because it's not well presented. Not talking about production, I'm talking about presentation, arrangement. It's something they learnt very fast, though.
Despite the imminent release of their debut single, there were growing tensions within the band, and conflicts occurred.
The first casualty, I suppose, of AC/DC was Colin Burgess. Colin, at this stage, wasn't very popular with Angus and Malcolm Young. He'd been a great star in the 60s, etc., and was very popular with the girls. We'd arrive at places and Colin would have a girl on each arm and this kind of stuff, and I thought it was great. And but Malcolm and Angus would talk behind his back and call him rock star and pop star, and that kind of thing. They were very, very jealous of Colin. And one night when we were playing at Checkers, Colin just seemed out of sorts, really. I don't know what was wrong with him. But during the set, Colin did this big drum roll and just kept going with the drum roll and landed flat in his face on the stage beside the drummers.
One night I come along there and I had a couple of drinks beforehand. I mean, I wasn't drunk. I mean, I've never fallen off my drums in all my life, and I never have, and I never will again. No, what actually happened, I come along and bought a drink, and I left it on the table, and I went behind to go and have a check and see what my drums were set up for the night, etc. And I come back about, I don't know, half an hour later on, and I grabbed my drink because we were just about to go on, and I sculled this drink. I thought, okay. So we go on, and we're on stage, and all of a sudden, my head's going woo, 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 and it flipped me out, and I think, oh, I sort of turned into jelly. It was like, and I did around this roll and kept going. As if you talk to Andy Evans, he'll say the same thing. I did this long roll around the kit, kept on rolling and bloop and roll onto the floor. We
called a halt to the set. Obviously, we didn't have a drummer, and we carried Colin off the stage. And I was worried. I didn't know what happened. 10 minutes later or so, Malcolm walked up to me and informed me he'd sacked him.